Hello everybody, my name is Christian, and today we are going to be talking about the most powerful team in Honkai Star Rail, Mono Remembrance. And no, I do not mean Aglaya RMC Cyrene Hyacinth. God damn it. I wish that was the strongest personally, but no. Mono Remembrance HP team with Castorus, Evernight, Cyrene, and Hyacinth. In my opinion, this is the strongest team you can make in Star Rail right now at every single level of play, and I'm going to talk about why. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, join our Discord down below, and I hope you guys enjoy. Let's get into it. So, I have a little checklist here of everything that I want to talk about today, because it's not quite a lot, actually, of why I think they're the strongest, but once you hear all these reasons kind of combining, it's gonna make more sense, I hope. The very first thing I want to talk about is Mono Remembrance is constantly shilled. They are the most shilled team in the game right now. Even Paiano, who is also like a huge character for the game, he is not shilled as heavily as Castorus' team is. Let's start with all the bosses that we've seen so far in 3.x. We've had Nikador in 3.0. In 3.1, we had Flame Reaver. Then, we had Pollux. We had Aquila, who is now the Anomaly Arbitration boss. We have Lygus. And then we cut to, like, the E-Core boss, which, we don't talk about that. It was the E-Core boss and then the Fish. Neither of who really matter in the grand scheme of things, because they're also not, like, the highest level enemies in the game. But yeah, so then the E-Core boss is the last one that I can notably think of. When you put all of this together, that sucks! All of these are, guess what? Every single one of those bosses I just listed, including the E-Core boss, because you can brute force it, we'll be talking about that later. All of these bosses are Castorus. They are all built for Castorus. Nikador gets run down by Cassie. Flame Reaver gets obliterated by Cassie. Pollux is one, like, Castorus is one of the only characters in the game who can deal with Pollux efficiently because of the way that she works. And then, Lygus. Oh my god, Lygus. So, here's the thing with Lygus. Lygus is deadass more of an Evernight check. However, if you just have Evernight doing all the work, you're going to struggle a little bit unless you have, like, E2 Evernight. So now, we put in Castorus to also deal with the mobs alongside Evernight, and you can keep the dragon alive to make sure that your HP is always topped up. So even if you don't have Hyacinth for whatever reason, in the case of this best team, you are going to be perfectly fine. This is one of the only cases where it's not specifically a Castorus check, it's an Evernight check. However, having Castorus makes your life so much easier, it's not even funny. It is insane. I've just listed out like 5 major bosses, and all of them have Castorus as their top option to get, like, to beat them. That is insane. Now, I know that for Nikador and Flame Reaver specifically, these two characters are both Herda as well. Like, Herda is great into Nikador, Herda is great into Flame Reaver. I'm not going to deny that. I'm not going to deny that at all. The thing is, though, is that with how strong Castorus is, comparatively, it makes way more sense to have the Castorus team over the Herda team. Because the other area where the Herda excels is going to be in pure fiction. Guess what? Castorus is also great in pure fiction. And I can speak from personal experience on this. I don't think I had ever gotten a proper 40k before Castorus came out. And now I can 40k basically every single time. Also, if they keep providing DOT shell, I'll be in the clear, but moving on. This is a character who is built for all 3 game modes and excels at all 3 game modes. And she can dominate any boss put in front of her because of the strength of her team and how well they all work together to absolutely destroy the enemy. And that is actually, like, that can actually lead us into the next point, is the synergy of Mono Remembrance HP. Oh my god. Like, let's talk about this. So, in a Mono Remembrance HP team, you're gonna have, you know, at the highest level, you're gonna have Casterus, you're gonna have Evernight, you're gonna have Cyrene, and you are going to have Hyacinth. Does the average player know how well these characters synergize together? Like, how perfectly built for each other all of these people are? It's incredible. I'm going to assume that you have a quote-unquote complete character with E0S1, because if you don't have S1 of a character nowadays, they basically aren't an actual character. That's going to be a video for a different day. So, you start out with, like, I'm trying to think of even a proper rotation here. Let's say you have a Casterus skill. So Casterus skills drains the HP of your entire team. Okay, so now you do Hyacinth's skill to regenerate the HP and drain a little bit more to give Cassie even more charge. Then you Hyacinth ult. Hyacinth will restore all the rest of the missing HP, while also draining a little bit to once again give Cassie some charge. And then Ika will release a powerful attack based on the amount that you just healed or whatever it is. So now you've already done a bunch of damage, you've given Cassie a bunch of charge, and oh, right, by the way, let's not forget about this. Every time you do your skill or your ultimate, it drains HP if you have the Hyacinth Light Cone. That means that Evernight is now gaining charges for Eevee. And Eevee is incredibly powerful. Like, unbelievably powerful. To the point that if you're not aware of this, if you go onto Predwin right now, you know what? Show the screen real quick. You can play Evernight as a DPS or a support DPS because of how strong and because of how much advantage Evernight can take of the buffs and how much this entire team gains from the buffs. It's unbelievable. So now Eevee is getting supercharged by the amount of stacks. Oh, and let's not forget about Little Miss Pink Elf over here, who has deployed a true damage zone and is waiting to get her ultimate, because then her ultimate is going to enhance all three of the characters on your team to unbelievable heights. You know, just casually. It is insane how well these characters all work together. And the thing is, though, is that they could have made the choice to make it so that Cyrene wasn't as similar to Casterus, to Evernight, to Hyacinth. But no, they made her an HP scaler. No, they felt like making her an HP scaler. So, you know, that's just, yep. What? It is insane how much they all scale off of each other and how well they work together. And it was designed very much on purpose. But even then, this level of synergy and planning, and having every single intricate part of a moveset interact with another intricate part of somebody else's moveset, it's incredible. It's incredible, it's infuriating, and it's just, it doesn't feel like any other character or team set in this game combines as well as these characters do. The next best might be like DOT, but even then, that's mainly a two-person combo. Maybe three, depending on how you feel on, like, Black Swan. But she's not that essential to it. It's just Kafka and Heislands. There is no team that works so well together as these four do, because of how much overlap there is between the kits and between the interactions in these kits. So now I want to talk about a little bit of just... Let's knock out the brute force aspect. So I listed off all the bosses that kind of get just destroyed by Casterus and her team. The problem is that there are not a lot of buffs in this game that make huge differences in how you can play and all that. With a team that is this overall powerful, you can in fact just ignore every rule of the game. That's insane. So let's look at the E-Core boss. That E-Core boss is very much designed around, yeah, you want to shield her because you're going to get insta-killed otherwise with Like the little guillotine attack that he does. Castorus's team brute force that. I saw multiple people do it. It just didn't matter. Because that boss also summons minions that will break its weakness as well. So you can just kill those things as they pop up and it'll break the weakness. And you're still doing damage to it even through its insane damage reduction. It actually just doesn't matter. This team is so powerful, has so much HP, and has so much survivability. Because with having Castorus, let's not forget, you get a global passive that will revive you when you go down. So now death itself is not a way to stop you. That is insane. So the E-Core boss, his main mechanic, his whole thing, becomes invalidated by the strength of this one team. I can't think of many other bosses off the top of my head, but even then, there are characters like Hule. Hule is not an AoE designed boss. Yeah, you can still just Castorus him to death. Like, it works incredibly well. It is insane how much you can burn down just every boss in the game. It doesn't make sense, but it does when you consider how powerful this team overall is. So, the brute forcing aspect is genuinely another big part of this team and why a lot of people can invest in it, and I would recommend you invest in it, or why people really want this or hate this team, is because the rules of the game really stop applying to you, because it's the same thing as having Eidolons. Like, if you have, I don't know, we'll say maybe an E2 Herta. E2 Herta becomes infinitely better against every fight in the game than normal Herta. And now you're not going to feel as bad using her in single target fights compared to AoE fights because her damage level is just so much higher. That is what Mono Remembrance basically feels like, is if you just had Eidolons on another really good DPS character. Or another example would be E2 Finun. E2 Finun is extremely good. You get more meteors, and then in the ideal team with like Ceridra, you're doing way more damage. It is very, very nice. So anyway, Cyrene will just give Castorus and Evernight more ults. So you're just getting more dragons, more EVs, you're getting more damage overall, and again, true damage zone constantly. There is just no comparison for any normal base level team in the game, in my opinion, where it can stack up to the power of the Mono Remembrance HP team. They decided to kind of dive into this niche full force after HP scaling in this game had been absent since 1.x. I'm trying to make sure that I'm right about that, but the only character who had anything to do with HP in 2.x was, I mean, I guess Yunli. No, not really Yunli. I don't agree with that. It was Jade. Jade could alter HP, and her and Blade was actually a team for a little while back then. But in 1.x, we had Jingliu, Arlen, we had Blade himself. These were characters who were very HP scaling intensive, even though Arlen is not an HP scaler. I'll never understand. So all of these characters were, focused on HP as their primary thing, and then it completely disappeared for the entirety of 2.x. In 3.x, it came back swinging as hard as humanly possible. And realistically, Remembrance is less a path about joint attacks, about two characters interacting together to make a stronger one. It is really just an HP scaling path. That itself is going to be something I talk about in a different video, but think about it. Hyacinth, Evernight, Castorus, Cyrene, all HP scalers specifically. The only two other options we have in Remembrance are RMC and Aglaya. Aglaya is the only character who does not work with these teams. And then, let's show the screen again real quick. You'll notice she's the only one who's not in the top tier. Every other character is. And it should be across every mode, I think. Yeah. Apocalyptic Shadow, Evernight drops to 0.5, and that's it. That's it. And I know how people feel about the Predwin tier list, but at the end of the day, this is a fairly accurate reflection of the game's meta. Like, the good characters are good. Shocker. That's why they're up there. These characters are all HP scaling, and that's what makes them so good, because they can all work together so well. And then, that's the crazy part, is that RMC isn't even an HP scaler, but he fits in perfectly. So, really, it's just that kind of team and then a Aglaia. Remembrance as a path, it feels like the identity is less so about the importance of the summons, and the summons are really nice, the summons are really cool, and they all interact in a way that is, you know, in some way fun. But also, there's no real creativity within the summons and within the characters that are using them, because they are all HP scaling, and they are all meant to be on the exact same team. This brings me into, like, the main part of the video is over. Mono Remembrance is the strongest team in the game right now if you are at, like, any sort of level, a casual level or a competitive level. This is the strongest team in the game overall because of everything that they can do. So now I want to talk about real quick kind of the disappointment associated with this team being the strongest. There are multiple other strong teams in the game right now. I'm sure somebody's already commented that, they've already left the video, they were pissed. There are multiple other strong teams in the game right now. Anexa is incredible. Saber is incredible. Finon is incredible. Archer is incredible. And DOT is amazing. And that's without even taking into consideration the fact characters down here are still really fun or really good. E1 Blade, fantastic. E2 Fei Xiao, fantastic. E2 Acheron, I'm a hater, but also pretty fantastic. I would like to say I'm a hater of how I'm a hater of the game overall towards her. I actually really love Acheron. Then E1 Aglaia, E2 the Herda, E2 Mighty. And even then, these characters up here, you don't even really need the Eidolons yet. Like, you could still get away with not having them. There are a lot of powerful teams in this game still. But my biggest problem is that this is the main shill of Amphorius, is HP scaling. Because let's look at all the characters. There's still Tribby, who is an HP scaler. There is still Mighty, who is an HP scaler. After that, we got Ceridra, who was built for Finon and Anexa, but guess what? She now works with Mighty as well, and is one of the preferred options if you have Cyrene. That's insane. Then we have Cypher, who is one of the only generalist characters, really, besides, you know, good old Tribby. And then after that, we have Dan Heng, who is meant to be the resurrection of the Preservation Path. And he was given out for free, and I know that doesn't really alter anything, but if you don't have to pull for something, it kind of alters, like, the value of it for the developers specifically. Because if they just gave us a free HP scaling character again, that would have been dangerous for the pulls and just how the entire team eco structure works. So a lot of the characters are specifically based upon HP scaling, or they are characters that fit more into a niche. Like DOT is really only working with DOT. Anexa was meant to specifically work with the Herda, he just ended up becoming so much greater than that. Then, there's a character like Finon, he is the niche. He is just that powerful. And Aglaia was the start of this to introduce us to the Remembrance Path, and in my opinion, is still the best indication of the Remembrance Path. With all of this in mind, I want you to think back to maybe version 2.x. Break was the big thing for version 2.x. What bothers me about how this team works compared to what we saw in 2.x, in 2.x, you had multiple options. You had Firefly, Boothill, and Rappa, who all served as main DPSs properly. Then, we also got follow-up at the exact same time with Fei Xiao and Ling Sha, and even then, Ling Sha was a break character. Regardless, they pushed 2 archetypes. One was first half, and then one was a bit more second half, and even then, Rappa was second half. The main point was you had options, and there could actually be real debate between, oh, Fei Xiao is better, or oh, Firefly is better, or at the very least, Boothill and Rappa were close contenders to these other characters. With this one specifically, yeah, Finon is really, really good. And he's really, you know, he has an amazing team overall, and he can still clear content just as efficiently. I'm not going to say the same about Anexa. There are places where Anexa is going to have a bit of a wall issue. But anyway, I think the biggest problem for me is, even though we have 3 HP scaling characters, Casterus, Mighty, and Evernight, and they can all, like, quote-unquote, serve as your main DPS, Mighty is kind of the forgotten child, and he is significantly weaker because he doesn't work with these characters as well. And now, we have Evernight and Casterus, and Evernight is made to be a sub-DPS to Casterus, and she can exceed that role heavily. But at the same time, it's just more efficient if you put them together. It's just way more efficient. You didn't really see that with Boothill and Firefly, or Boothill Rappa, or Firefly Rappa. They were meant to be independent teams that could change based on how you wanted to play the game. This isn't the case. These are characters who are specifically built for each other, and if you don't have them in that scenario, you are going to lose value in some way, shape, or form unless you make up for it in a different way, which would be like an E1 Tribi, an E2 Evernight, an E2 Casterus without one of the other supports. I don't know if I'm being crazy on that point, and maybe I'm not explaining it well enough, but yeah, it just feels like you are much more tunneled into this specific type of team or this specific archetype, especially if you want to actually succeed. And that just feels a bit unfortunate when it feels like there was a much higher level of diversity and offerings in past updates. I think that is the extent of what I want to get out right now. I hope that made sense, and if it didn't, please feel free to ask questions in the comments. I will do my best to reply. I really just want to hear what other people have to say about this, because I'm not mad, per se. Like, I know I expressed a lot of disappointment in this video. I like this team. I love March 7th. I ended up really liking Cyrene as well throughout the story. And also, like, I wasn't a huge Honkai Impact player, but, you know, Alicia was sick. Casterus, I like Casterus. Not my absolute favorite. And I like Hyacinth as a character. I think she's a sin to game design, but overall, I like the character. So I do actually like this team, and it's super fun to play. I think Evernight is one of the most fun characters in the game, deadass. I just kind of hate how the game is somewhat built around this team specifically. That's kind of where my frustration stems from, because I didn't have Hyacinth until recently, and it definitely felt a bit more like I was getting kicked in the teeth because of it. And that goes even more so for players who just don't have any part of this team. They struggle even more and have even less fun, and that sucks. That just sucks, quite frankly. Alright, we're going to end it off here, so I hope you guys enjoyed. I've got plenty more good videos coming out soon, so I will see you guys then. Bye-bye!